fault. And I'm not for sure if it's anybody's fault, except the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's the way it is. But rules are rules, we follow them. There's certain things that I have to do I don't like doing, but you have to do them. So I just wanted to say my piece and defend ourselves and defend the Nemics. They're nice people. Hopefully this can get healed up, and hopefully this can all pass, and we can build houses like we should and try to grow the town. We like living here. Or we don't live here, we like building here. If we didn't, we just wouldn't. But there's something about it, we just like it. But this has really put a bad mark on a bad taste in our mouth because of it. So, do you have any questions of me or statements?
Anybody got any questions, concerns? I mean, as long as it's done within the letter of the state law, I mean, there's nothing that, I mean, the permits were issued, and the drainage plan has been gone over again by the engineer. I mean, I think it should continue to go forward and be done and be inspected just as every other house.
We tried to get to town today, but we didn't make it in town, so tomorrow morning I'm going to pick up the other one. But when the office opens, because we have another one we're starting to dig tomorrow, unless the rain stopped us. But I don't want to get halfway into that one and then I have another stop work order because somebody said, well, what about this? It's all been approved. You have to go by, somebody here hired these people. And so if you hired them, then you got to trust them and defend them. And it appears that that didn't happen. It's, well, somebody did something wrong. If you don't like it, I can't help it, but that's the rule's a rule. So we followed them all, despite what everybody says about us. Thank you for your time. I didn't hope I didn't offend anybody, but we like to build houses, and that's what we do.
We like houses being built here.
Pardon me?
We like houses being built here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, we'll move on to reports. Greg?
Just an update on the street project. Thursday, we had a neighborhood meeting for those on Mill Street West. The 2-block section going up the hill from Grove. They got started laying out temporary water tomorrow morning. They're going to reclaim the road. Most of the pipe work is done on the rest of the project. Hopefully by the end of next week, early week after, we'll be starting to put the roads back together on the Minnesota side of things. And everything is supposed to be wrapped up with 1 layer of blacktop by October 5th. And then the final lift of blacktop and any cleanup will be 2 weeks after that. Weather dependent.
Mike?
With the fire department, we took delivery last week of that new rescue truck that we've been waiting for. So that's in the station now. So if anybody wants to stop down, check it out, just get a hold of me. I'd be more than happy to show it to you. I know what it looks like. We have a few setup things still going on with it, but it is in service as of now. Went in service last week, so we've been using it already. The other thing with fire department, we got Fire Prevention Week coming up in October. So we just want to reach out to the daycares, different other schools. We've got some always planned at the elementary school, but if anybody else wants us to show up to an event or a daycare or something like that, reach out to me. We'll get you on the schedule in October to do that. And then I'll speak briefly on our water issue we had last week. And Tuesday night, I took a lot of complaints from the residents starting about 8:45 p.m. Of either low water pressure. Most we feel experienced low water pressure. There were some people at elevation in certain parts of our town that had no water. We had the water back on by 9:37. Once we figured out what the problem was that was going on, we had lost power from our well house up to our north reservoir. Probably won't know exactly what that cause was. That power line's over a 1/4 mile long, runs through a bean field. So we've replaced, bypassed that line, and everything seems to be working fine now. So that's about the answer we got. So it was pointing timing-wise out to the storm from when we did our math back to when we would have lost pumps heading up to that reservoir to when the water started to get low on the low pressure. But what the exact cause is, we won't know. So
You guys did a good job of getting on top of it and staying on top of it and letting everybody know what was going on.
I got to give Wes a
Put in
pat on the back
a lot
for
of
that.
long hours that night.
Yeah, Wes knows his system well, and he knew exactly what to do as soon as he came in, so he did a good job that night.
Kudos to your staff for that. Jeff?
A couple of upcoming events for the police department. Thursday, we have Coffee Cops and Conversation at the bakery. And then Kyle already alluded to Fun Thursday on the 13th, and we'll be there as well. And of course, school's back in session. The elementary is a couple of days behind, but just remember the the increase of kids going to the school. Everybody's getting back in their routines. I know this morning I forgot to put water bottles with my daughters, so they were pretty thirsty by the time that they got home. But pay attention to your driving when you're going out, because kids are still getting used to their routines. They're more excited to see their friends and get back to school than they are paying attention to some of the other things, and we just don't want to have a tragedy happen. That's all I have.
Linnell?
I just wanted to inform the council that we are planning to do some interviews tomorrow for the city administrator position, and we hope to have some more information to bring forth then at the next city council meeting.
Bill?
A couple weeks ago, I first mentioned about John Birch Park, and Ken, I guess I'll direct this mostly for you and the Park Commission. I don't know if you've met since I mentioned that.
No.
I guess my proposal would be, let's open up John Birch on, say, Friday and Saturday, Saturday and Sunday. Maybe just the southern gate there along 19. Let's see what happens. I know people like to come down and play a little, touch football or whatever. Also, I'm wondering, over the years, there have been a lot of keys to a lot of those locks. I'm wondering if we should rekey and then hand out keys, to school, the Bears, whatever, whoever really needs them, and go from there. And then I know there was some concern, and why the park was originally closed to the public was there was concern because we put so much money into John Birch, worried about vandalism, that kind of thing. We do have internet down there. We could put cameras there to, if someone does by chance try and damage something, we can at least catch them and at least make them pay our deductible for the city to fix it. So I would like you guys to consider that. And dovetailing on that, Mike, we didn't get a chance because we didn't have enough time in Public Works. Possibility of putting cameras at the gates down at Public Works, along with maybe a call button on the main gate, because as we know, we have an employee there who she's by herself a lot. We've got some valuable equipment. Do we want every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming into the place without?
That's already in the works. I've actually got a meeting tomorrow with Joe Berg and our on-site people about that specific thing, about getting a couple cameras on the gates,
Great.
on our fuel pumps, and then the impound lot, because they get a few issues there, I guess, too. So
It kind of depends. They go in
Yeah.
waves.
Well, I mean, it's not only for the equipment, but I mean, there is an honest-to-God safety issue with one person being there by herself a lot, so we want to,
Cameras certainly were a component that was recommended to the previous administrator and Public Works Director, but not acted on. I think the new Public Works Director is serious about taking a look at the
and that's
overall
why I also
security.
mentioned a call box, so someone can just,
Yep.
and.
That was also previously mentioned
Okay,
to both of
gotcha.
them.
Okay, great. The last thing, and it kind of dovetails with some of the stuff we talked about the housing issues that were discussed here tonight. I think if we go back in time, and I can't remember the exact year, Linnell, but we decided to go with the county for our building inspecting. We used to have an inspector on staff. That worked well because we had Scott Safe over at the county, and I knew I was going to be very comfortable with what Scott did. Scott's left, and I'm wondering if some of our current issues might not be solved by having a building inspector on staff again. I'm not sure when our contract runs with the county, if it's year to year, calendar year or not, but with the money we pay the county, plus the additional, we only get a portion of the fee from the building permits that run through the county. With that and what we pay the county anyhow, we can come close to paying on staff. I've talked briefly with Linnell about this, and so it's something I think we, as we do our budgeting here, let's at least look at the possibility.
At least a part-time inspector, maybe.
Well, whatever it takes. I mean, a second set of eyes on everything might not be a bad idea.
Hi.
Babe, would you like to talk?
Yeah, yeah.
You're recognized
It's
now.
hard for me to shut up. The county did, Scott did leave. Scott was fabulous. Dan is his replacement. Dan's just getting his feet wet. And give him a chance. He'll get there, okay? And I did call Doug this evening on his cell phone after hours. Those guys are the best. Believe me, they're the best, okay? You don't want to mess with that. We had it before. It might have been what you think was good on this end. It was a nightmare on our end, okay? And it turns out that, and we'll talk in private about some problems that you had with your in-house
No,
inspector.
I
And
understand what you're saying in
Yes.
that regard.
yes,
But at the time, the city was going through a stretch where we were
yes,
cutting everything.
I agree.
And we went to the county because we were able to save a few dollars.
Yep, and I think the county will do more than a sufficient job for you, but Dan's brand new, and he just went out on his own, and this thing slipped through the cracks somehow, and it's all about the grading. And we're not talking about grading, we're talking about a slab-on-grade being put in a walkout lot, okay? That's what we're talking about, and there is a substantial amount of fill added to that, so the grade was changed dramatically, and we know that, okay? We can look at that and see that. And I don't know who's to blame, and it really doesn't matter, there it is, so you gotta deal with it, but I think the county's your answer, but that's just what I think. Thanks.
But I'd just like us to look at it, a second set of eyes on what we do as a city is not a bad thing.
Nope, not at all.
But thank you. I think I'm good for now.
Just to answer one of the questions you raised, Councilman Duncan, I got it eventually. The locks were changed, I believe, about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Because of the enormous amount of keys out. Public Works at that time was the keeper of who got keys. So I don't know who they were issued out to, but I know that they were changed about 3 years ago. Mike wouldn't have the history on that, so I just wanted to add that for yours and
But
Ken's.
maybe we can also have a list of who they're handed
And
out
they,
to.
they may have it, I don't
Because
know.
I assume.
We
I
got
would-
'em.
I would have thought the police department and public works would have it for the city.
We have keys for it, but I don't have the list of who they were
Right.
given to.
But I'm saying,
Yep.
if we did rekey, let's create a list.
Yep.
That way. there's
And
no
you, I
doubt.
mean, it depending upon how you wanted to use it, you could always put an ultra-high lock on there where they can't just get it made at a hardware store.
Right, I understand.
So, I
There's-
mean,
there's
it all
cost
depends on the
involved, I
level of
understand.
security you want to put to, you know, a surety that those issued keys don't get replicated.
Right.
So,
But we have
but
liability.
Mike and I can visit,
We have liability as a city, whether the public is using it or the high school or the Bears are using it, we still have liability. And cameras might also help us catching a couple things. But anyway, go ahead, John.
I might just expand on that building inspector you brought up. Linnell and I were talking about what it cost us for the county. I think 15 and 16, we paid about 30,000 a year. Last year, we paid about 100,000. And this year, we're only, so far, I've only paid about 15, if I got it about right. But maybe, you know, let him start see what he does down at the county, but
I think on our budget, it comes 39-some thousand, I believe.
It's all correlated with your building permits, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so that's where the price tag comes up, and that's where the variance is, correct? So then you don't know, how many permits you're gonna have next year, so it fluctuates.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things I asked Linnell privately was, would we be able to keep a building inspector, a full-time one, busy with, because there is gonna be that ebb and flow. And you mentioned that previously, we were able to keep someone pretty busy, so.
And we'll discuss that at our
But that's during the
budget meeting
Budget.
coming up here in a few minutes. John, you have anything else?
Nothing.
Ken?
No, I don't.
either.
I don't have anything for tonight, so at this time, Chair will take a motion to adjourn.
So, second?
Motion by Bill, second by Ken. All those in favor?
Aye.